Hey guys, Rory here, and in today's video I want to talk to you about when I think training in only the gi becomes a problem. Alright guys, so I want to talk about something quickly with you that I know some of you are not going to appreciate, but it's the idea that training only gi specific techniques is actually going to be detrimental to your growth.
This fucks up my plan. This is fucking bullshit.
There are two kinds of control that we can have over our opponent: direct and indirect control, or proxy-based control. So for example, direct control would be me controlling my opponent's wrist. It doesn't matter if he's wearing a gi, doesn't matter if he's wearing a rash guard, doesn't matter if he's lubed up and naked. I am always going to be able to control his wrist directly. Indirect control, or proxy-based control, is when we're using a tool to be able to exert control over our opponent. So by grabbing the sleeve, I'm able to control the lever to the elbow and to the shoulder, controlling my opponent's wrist. However, I'm doing it purely because of this tool. So what happens if this tool doesn't exist? I've trained with quite a few people that are extremely proficient in the gi, but as soon as we train nogi and the clothes come off,
Gay!
But as soon as we train no-gi and the gis are off, all of a sudden they don't know how to be able to translate their game to a no-gi approach. And so now if you are only interested in sport-specific jiu-jitsu and you want to just be training the gi and you want to be competing in the gi and you find that to be the most fun, there is absolutely nothing wrong with that. But if we're looking at being able to apply this in a self-defense situation or within law enforcement, then I don't think the gi is going to be as practical. The gi has absolutely got its place and it's really great for being able to get better at defense. However, we don't have a guarantee that someone has clothes that we're going to be able to manipulate because they might not be wearing them, or they're going to be wearing something like some stupidly thin Ed Hardy t-shirt that's going to rip the second I touch it. If I get too dependent on having to have clothing to be able to exert indirect control over my opponent, then I'm going to have a hole in my game that might be exposed and it could get me into potential danger later.
Well, you know, that's just like your opinion, man.
I have worked a lot of different jobs in security and law enforcement. I did loss prevention, where I pretended to shop around stores and I caught people stealing. I worked at a hospital in which I worked directly with the emergency department, psych ward, psychiatric emergency services, and psychiatric intensive care. Unfortunately, a lot of violence in the hospitals. I bounced for several years and had to kick out many drunk people and got into really big fights, and I even had to go to the hospital once to get stitches. And now I work in corrections. The only time I tried to use clothing once was out of desperation during kind of violent incidents where somebody had grabbed onto me, and as I grabbed their shirt, they backed up, the shirt stretched and ripped, and then instead of having control, that indirect control that I had allowed them to create a lot of space and put me back at risk of getting hit, punches. So I immediately had to bail back to controlling the head. No-gi training allowed me to be able to handle those situations. I don't agree with the idea that self-defense is best done in the gi. I would actually be the opposite of that, where if I had the choice of training only gi specific grips and no gi specific grips, I would choose to train no gi specific grips for the purposes of self-defense and law enforcement.
Only a Sith deals in absolutes.
The great thing about training in the gi is that the clothing is there, and so we can use it when we want to, but we also don't have to use it. So if you are training in a gym that never has no-gi classes, you can still work on the defense of trying to break your opponent's grips and defending the collar from chokes, but you don't have to actually be grabbing the clothing. Once again, here I can get the sleeve grip or a pistol grip, but I can also grab directly to the wrist. Instead of grabbing up and grabbing the sleeve, I can reach to the elbow. Instead of grabbing the collar, I can grab to the back of the head. And this is great to be able to supplement your training and getting used to different kind of control styles, but also if your fingers get chewed up or you're dealing with tendonitis like I am right now, there's a lot of times where I'll roll in the gi, but I'm actually not going to be gripping the gi myself because it puts a lot of force into my arms and it puts a lot of strain on my tendons and muscles. If you feel that you are getting proficient in the gi, but you feel that you don't know what the hell you're doing in no-gi, that's when the problem arises. So guys, that's just my thoughts on the matter. I don't think that gi-specific training only is as useful for self-defense, and I think that it can create a deficit in your game. Try and keep a balance, because there are times where gi grips will exert better control over your opponent, and there are times that no-gi grips will have better control. And being able to mix the two rather than relying specifically on one kind of style is going to make you more diverse and more effective at jiu-jitsu.